Hey family, it's Kamilah Stevenson, and I'm here talking with you about wealth and your financial journey. There is a question floating around right now that a lot of people are scared to even ask, and that is, could Bitcoin collapse? Now, before you panic, I'm not talking about Bitcoin going to zero, or I'm not talking about the end of crypto. I'm talking about what's happening right now. The macro pressure, the forced selling, the reverse carry trade coming out of Japan, and even MicroStrategy facing decisions that could shake the market in the short term, because Bitcoin isn't struggling because of fear. It's struggling because of global liquidity mechanics that most everyday investors don't even understand. And if you understand it, you won't panic. You'll actually see the opportunity. Now, quick disclaimer, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you what to buy, hold, or sell. I'm just breaking down what's happening so you can make smarter decisions and stay calm when the world around you feels so confused. And if you love content like this, please go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss a video. And I want to double down a second time and say, please hit that like button. A lot of people will watch the video and they just won't take a moment to hit that like button. It really do help the video, and it helps YouTube to push these videos out more. So please do me that favor. I really appreciate it. Now, let's talk about what's really happening with Bitcoin, because it's not about emotion. Let's get our emotions out of it and let's think macro picture. Right now, Bitcoin is under pressure from something way bigger than the crypto market, but it's the reverse carry trade coming out of Japan. And I've talked a little bit about this in my previous videos, but here's a short version. Japan's interest rates are rising for the first time in decades. That means the cheap yen borrowing strategy, which pumped global markets for years, is now unwinding. When that happens, institutions have to sell assets to repay their yen loans. And what do they sell first? The most liquid things like Bitcoin, US stocks, tech, large cap assets, not because they hate Bitcoin, not because crypto is dead, but because liquidity gets squeezed, and Bitcoin is one of the fastest things to sell. Now, it's not fear, it's just mechanics. And this is why in the short term, you can get dramatic volatility in Bitcoin, even if nothing's wrong with Bitcoin in and of itself. Now, I do want to add this part that if all this macro stuff feels really new to you and you really want a deeper understanding of crypto, Bitcoin, ETFs, altcoins, and how money actually moves, there is a program I'm going through myself called Stock Up University, and it breaks these things down so clearly step by step. Larry Jones is still running a sale, and he gave my audience an extra discount. If you want to get part of that deal before it runs out, the link is in the description. Use the code EARN. All right, let's keep going, because I want to talk about MicroStrategy and what's going on there. So, MicroStrategy, which is Michael Saylor's company, is the one that's been buying billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And it is pretty much the biggest corporate holder in the world. Most people think MicroStrategy can just hold Bitcoin forever and ride through every wave, but they're dealing with something major right now, and that's dividend requirements, potential for selling, and even the possibility of being removed from the Nasdaq 100. Let me break this down simply. MicroStrategy is structured in a way where shareholders expect dividends and corporate responsibilities. And there are now new rules and deadlines coming, including January 2026, that could force them to make decisions about their Bitcoin reserves. Now, does this mean MicroStrategy will dump all their Bitcoin? Well, no. But even the potential of them needing to sell a portion creates psychological pressure on the entire market. Because when the biggest corporate Bitcoin holder in the world faces external pressure, retail panics, institutions hedge, shorts pile in, and volatility increases. Again, not because Bitcoin is bad. This is short-term macro pressure combined with corporate pressure. And on top of that, Bitcoin has recently broken a few major technical indicators that historically signals deeper corrections before the next major run. And so I do want to talk about the technicals, because there is showing some short-term weakness in the charts. Now, I don't make decisions based only on the charts, but the charts do tell us when the momentum is shifting. And right now, Bitcoin's technical structure shows short-term weakness. Here's what I mean. Number one, Bitcoin broke below the 50-week moving average twice. That is usually a sign of a major trend pause. Not the end of Bitcoin, but maybe a reset. Number two, we got a death cross. That just means the shorter term trend dipped below the longer term trend. Historically, this signals deeper corrections before the big bull run starts. Number 3, the monthly MACD crossed down. Every time this has happened in Bitcoin's history, we've seen a bigger correction first, followed by one of the strongest rallies of the entire cycle. And number 4, liquidity indicators are cooling, not permanently, just temporarily. And this means whenever we get a macro shock like the one coming out of Japan right now. Now, let me be very clear. None of these signals mean Bitcoin is dead. None of them mean sell everything. None of them mean Bitcoin can't recover. Bitcoin has had far worse technical breakdowns in the past and still went on to break all new highs. So I'm honestly at the idea that anything is possible with crypto. Nobody can be definitive with whatever angle they're coming. Again, I'm just sharing what's happening right now so you can do your own due diligence and make your own smart decisions. But right now, these indicators are telling us we're in a cooling period, meaning momentum is slowing, macro pressure is here, prepare for volatility. But I don't know, it could collapse and then recover. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just explaining to you what the charts are showing and what macro events are at play that can make things go a little left. And honestly, volatility is the thing that gives you opportunity. This is why the smartest investors stay calm while everyone else freaks out. If there is a dip, I'm buying because I'm still under the conclusion that Bitcoin will reach $1 million somewhere in the future. But that's just me. You can do what you do. But I do want to take a moment to connect this all together because if you don't understand what's happening in Japan, you're going to completely misread what's happening to Bitcoin. Now, Japan is raising interest rates for the first time in decades. That one decision is shaking the entire global financial system. Now, here's why. Japan is unwinding 30 years of cheap yen borrowing. So for decades, investors borrowed yen at near zero, converted it to dollars, and used that money to buy U.S. stocks, bonds, tech, real estate, and yes, Bitcoin. This was the yen carry trade. It pumped the global markets for years, and now the trade is breaking. And that's because Japan's yields are rising, the yen is strengthening, and the math is just falling apart. As I say, the math ain't mathing no more for them to go in this same direction. So what do investors have to do? They must sell the assets that they bought to repay their yen loans. This is the reverse carry trade. And when global institutions need cash out fast, they don't sell illiquid things first, but instead they sell the most liquid assets, which is Bitcoin, big tech, U.S. treasuries, large cap stocks. Bitcoin is one of the easiest assets to liquidate. So Bitcoin gets hit first because institutions need liquidity. This is exactly what we're seeing right now. Yen strengthening, global deleveraging, forced selling, risk off environment, liquidity panic, Bitcoin getting hit even when crypto fundamentals are fine. And here's the most important part. This is short-term macro turbulence, not long-term destruction. Bitcoin isn't falling because Bitcoin is a bad investment. Bitcoin is falling because global liquidity is resetting. So again, this is temporary. And I want to explain how liquidity shocks always play out. Okay. So I need you to shift your mindset for a moment because what's happening right now is not new. This exact script played out many times in global markets. You always got to go back in history to understand what's going on in the present. In 1998, there was Asian financial crisis. The markets dropped hard, liquidity froze, the Fed stepped in, and then what happened next is a massive rally. In 2008, there was a global financial crisis. Everything crashed, banks collapsed, people panicked, then the Fed injected liquidity. And what followed was one of the strongest multi-year bull markets ever. In 2020, we had the pandemic liquidity shock. Bitcoin fell 50% in days. Stocks tanked, everything crashed. Then liquidity came roaring back and Bitcoin went from 4,000 to 69,000. So as you see, global markets don't die during liquidity shocks. They're reborn because when financial stress gets too high, central banks, especially the Federal Reserve, steps in with rate cuts, quantitative easing, liquidity injections, bond purchases, and balance sheet expansion. And historically, these liquidity waves have fueled some of the biggest rallies ever seen. So yes, Bitcoin may be under pressure right now. And yes, the charts may look weak and real weak some days. Yes, MicroStrategy have some decisions coming. And yes, Japan is shaking the system. But all of this is short-term turbulence, not long-term collapse. The cycle is not ending, it's resetting, okay? So there is a temporary downside to this. And I want you to know that that's why I still invest in Bitcoin myself. But you can choose to do what is best for you and your future, all right? But I want to bring this together with clarity and let you know that macro shocks don't last forever. They shake the system, they reset liquidity, and then markets rebuild stronger. We've seen this pattern over and over. Again, 1998, 2008, 2020, pandemic crash. Every single time the markets recovered and the assets with the strongest fundamentals came back even harder. Bitcoin is one of those assets. Yes, Bitcoin may have some more downside in the short term. And based on historical patterns, it wouldn't be a surprise to see a retest of the 100 EMA weekly, a dead cat bounce, or even a pullback towards the 200-week moving average because liquidity is resetting in the global system. And I'll tell you right now, if Bitcoin did pull back to those deeper levels, I will be buying because I do believe in diversification. I believe in owning multiple strong assets. And as I've always said, I don't marry a coin. I study macro, I study liquidity, and I position myself calmly. Bitcoin for me is still a major part of my long-term portfolio. And I don't panic when price moves down. I see opportunity. This is why education matters, because when you understand macro, you stop reacting emotionally and you start moving strategically. And honestly, it's always easier when you are long-term minded. I need you to get long-term minded if you're going to build real wealth. And listen, you got to understand the economy and financial situations if you want to build wealth. And you got to understand crypto and Bitcoins and altcoins and macro cycles and how the financial system moves. And that's why I keep telling you to invest in yourself. Invest in Stock Up University. Larry Jones put together one of the clearest, most beginner-friendly financial educational programs out there. It's beginner-friendly, but even if you are advanced in your understanding of financial institutions, the economy, the stock market, cryptocurrency, you are still going to learn more than you have ever learned in any program. I'm going through it myself, and I'm telling you, your understanding of crypto and markets will grow fast. Very speedily, okay? He was generous enough to extend a little bit on the Black Friday. I don't know when it's ending, so you better hurry up because I know there is a deadline. But if you use my link in the description, you're going to get an extra discount. The code is EARN. And if you want a community, if you want to ask questions, if you need guidance with your portfolio, your wealth building, how to guard yourself from taxes, and a real strategy and a blueprint to build wealth in an intelligent way, then make sure you check out my membership. You can still use the code Black Friday 300 before it ends. I don't know if it's ended by the time you watch this, but I'm telling you, you want to get in before we close the door on that. One of the greatest things you can do for yourself going into this new year is to have accountability and support that will help you to guide yourself through your financial future. People's financial future is suffering because they don't have accountability and they don't have a place where they can grow in their understanding of how to build wealth, right? So position yourself because 2026 is about to be crazy. And I want you to understand how to get out of your emotions and make wise, intelligent decisions. The markets don't reward emotion, they reward education. So stay wise, stay wealthy, and I'll see you in the next one.